Maria, it's great to meet you. Thank you for reaching out to the show. And I want to begin our conversation before we get into your debut album by asking how you survived the last 3.5 years with COVID. How did you get through that time period as a musician, and how did it change you?
Some people even have relatives that they lost it. I've been lucky not having immediate people in my environment to actually lose them from life. So I've been lucky in that way, but it's been mentally challenging from my perspective. It's been really hard to uh well adjust and then keep up the measures and then stay in and then keep being creative, really. I mean, it depends how you experienced it and where you were, but too many lockdowns kind of, they made you go crazy. The first lockdown was great.
Yeah.
Everyone, we all had time to do things and exercise and write music, and but then it kept coming up,
Yep.
and personally it brought me down at some point. I was like quite depressed around the second one.
Yeah. It was,
So it took very long. Yeah.
yeah, it was too much. But it has to feel good to have your debut coming out now. The world's waking up. So how does it feel to have this album coming out?
Yeah, it feels great. It's been, well, you probably have heard this from other musicians, but when an album comes out, you almost offer it in a sense because it takes so long to come out, and
Yeah.
you've written the music almost 2 years ago. You played it for a year or so, and you kind of moved on from it. But then
Right.
your album is out. Your album is out, and I mean, I'm just being honest. I love the
Yeah.
music. I'm loving the music, and I'm very attached to it. And I still find ways to play it and keep it interesting. And I love it. I love it, and my band loves it, and we're having a great time when we play. But it's kind of the case as I discuss it with other musicians, because it takes so long to record, to mix, to master, to get it out, to prepare. So by the time it's out, you kind of want to write the next thing.
Yeah, I get it. And I always actually ask that question. It's like at this point now, you're already moved on to the next place. You know, you're just, we're just dealing with what you've been living for this whole time. So, but the thing about this album that's unique is it's your debut, it's your initial shout out into the jazz world. So, was there any pressure? What's your general feeling about that?
Yes, there was pressure. I mean, there's always pressure with music,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I mean, especially, I mean, we tend to be quite strict with ourselves, musicians, and it takes a lot of effort and years to learn how to undo that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this album is very special to me. It kind of captures the journey I've been having through jazz and music. I mean, especially jazz, because jazz is a thing that's been going on for the last 7, 8, 9 years for me. I grew up with classical music and Greek music, so I just got introduced into obviously rock as a teenager and
Yeah.
blues. So one thing led to another, and then all of a sudden in my 20s I was into jazz. But it wasn't the case. I'm not one of those people that I had parents that were listening jazz vinyls, and
Okay.
I wasn't into that background. But my grandmother was a piano teacher, but classical. Uh, so it's been a journey for me,
Yeah.
musically and life wise. So it kind of captures that. Like there's some melodies in this album that I actually figured out years back when I was in school, and I completely transformed them ever since. And I put a bass line and I made them Latin, and then the original recording of that tune is literally when I was 12, and you can hear my grandma in the background chatting to her sister. So it's kind of, yeah, it kind of follows me through this journey, musically and life wise.
So you're originally from Greece. You're in London now. Talk to me a little bit about what brought you to London and kind of how this early jazz influences that you had.
Yes, I mean, I came to London randomly with my sister, and
Okay.
oh, well, I don't know if you read that at all at the at my info, but I also studied environmental engineering.
Yeah.
Uh, so initially, I came to London looking for a job, and I was doing interviews in construction companies and chemical companies and all sort of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what I'm gonna do, and I hadn't sorted anything out back then. And well, I kept playing jazz and being engaged with jazz, so I got exposed in this massive jazz scene that there is here,
Yeah.
and the more I was into it, the more it kept me into it. Like it's great to be in London, and the scene is so vibrant. The music is everywhere. There's workshops everywhere, so there's a lot of opportunities for young people,
Yeah.
and there's lots of opportunities to watch things and to go to gigs, to jams, and yeah, it was inspiring. I mean, it's what made me. I think I don't even know if I wouldn't be in London if I would do what I'm doing right now, and if I would have an album right now outside.
Yeah.
uh, it kind of shows me how big impact the environment can have on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Who were some jazz musicians that you've listened to that really kind of made you love it and maybe influenced you?
All the classic, Winter Kelly, Red Garland, McCoy, and later on guys, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, like all I mean, Randy Weston I really like.
Yeah.
um Obviously Coltrane, Miles, all the classics. Mingus, I think Mingus music is one of my favorite composition wise. um and then there's lots of amazing like modern guys around, like Aaron Goldberg. He's my hero.
Yeah.
Or I saw him back a few years back in Pizza Express in London. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Or Avishai Cohen,
Hmm.
bass player and trumpet player. Like, there's so amazing things right now. And yeah, um, I just I think music is like, I mean, I love jazz, but sometimes I just, I might listen to something completely random and it
Hmm.
will impact me. I think jazz is about improvisation, and it kind of it expands so much, and you see from very like classic straight ahead things to very modern things, but they all have a kind of a thread going on, which is the improvising, which I love.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say I like everything. I like all sorts of jazz and all sorts of music if it's good,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What was the
Um,
what was the first live show you saw in London?
oh, good question. Like a proper gig
Yeah, like one that blew you away.
thing. It was Ahmad Jamal at Royal Albert Hall.
Wow.
It was amazing. Like the way
Yeah.
he was using the keyboard, it was something I've never seen before. Like he
Yeah.
he uses the whole range from the very bottom note to the very top note. No one else is doing that in such an amazing
Wow.
way.
Wow.
He's like he's all over the place, and I mean it's the main thing that drew me.
Yeah.
Uh, but obviously, in general, his playing and the whole gig was amazing. It was at
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth Hall, South Bank, London, not Royal Albert Hall. It was great.
Yeah. So I always heard that show that Charlie Parker did with Dizzy Gillespie in Royal Hall. No one really attended it because there was a big boxing match. So people reference that in jazz as one of the biggest shows ever, but there was a boxing match that was going on and no one went to it. I couldn't imagine, you know. It's wild.
Easy.
So
No,
let me
that's
ask you
wild. I didn't
this.
know that. I
Yeah,
thought Paul was playing boxing.
yeah, it's weird how history unfolds and all. In fact, I got it real quick here. It's funny you mentioned Ahmad Jamal. I got this in the mail the other day. This is it's called Emerald City Nights. It may be because the background. There we go.
Ah,
And it was the sessions in 66 to 68 at the Penthouse in Seattle. and it's like really like cool. I mean, it's like full of like all the original posters and art and just like it's totally like it's awesome, you know? And
Right.
it's just
Looks so.
so when you said that, I was thinking about I've been listening to him live back in his heyday, and it's really cool, you know? So,
Ah, he's the boss. He's
y
everything.
yeah, yeah, he is amazing. So
Like
so the
he's
thing
amazing.
about being a musician is there's all these layers that go into it. You get to perform live, you get to record music, you get to do all these things, but what do you like the best about it? What's the favorite part about being a professional musician?
Definitely gigging. Definitely, definitely gigging is the most fun, I think.
Yeah,
Recording is hard. Recording can be hard because, especially when you improvise, because everything is on the moment and it's really like really hard to capture that in one take.
yeah,
Or, and then do another take. A second take will be completely different. So we all, I mean, I don't know, the way I discussed it with other musicians, we all know it's kind of just a picture, and you shouldn't pay too much attention to it. That it's a nice like way for you to remember the moment.
yeah,
But there's always going to be good and bad moments when you're playing, and I think gigging and communicating with the audience and the musicians at the same time, I think is the most fulfilling thing. There's something quite magical happening at the moment.
yeah,
Um, I mean, think about it. If you treat the recording as a gig, you again have magical moments because they're on the moment. Just being on the moment, I think, from a meditational kind of view and music
yeah,
kind of view, is the best thing about this kind of job. I think like having the privilege of doing something for work that really encourages that being on the moment
yeah,
is great. The more you do it, I think the more you stay young at heart and mind. I think for me that's the most important thing, because the more reality and the world we're living in is crazy. If you
yeah,
keep stressing, you keep thinking the past, the future, you never on now. So those magical moments that you're on the now, I really appreciate them, and I think that's what music. I think why that's why I really appreciate music the most.
yeah. That's very well said. So why do you love jazz?
Well, apart of the tradition and the language and just being amazing, really cool, and apart what we just discussed about being on the now with improvising, I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard question actually. What? Because it swings. Because it's like, it makes you move. Taking it down to the basics, it's not everything makes you move. It's important. Makes your heart bounce. I don't know.
You know what's funny about you saying that? And I almost said it, but we got sidetracked. Randy Weston was one of those first interviews that I ever had that like it took me to a higher level. Like Randy is like a guy that doesn't operate on a regular human level. He is so spiritual and so amazing that everything he says is quotable. So at one point, because he went to Africa a lot, he always did pilgrimages. He was the one that explained what jazz is to me in the best possible way. And this is what he said. He said one time when he went to Africa, he saw everything there swings, the elephant tails, the leaves on the trees, everything swings. He said, that's why this music swings. It comes from a place where everything swings, animals, trees, humans. And it was like, at that point, it was like the big red curtain just parted. And I was like, I finally figured it out. He defined and painted what jazz was. It was amazing.
That is a very, very well said way. It's great.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing actually that reminds me of is that why jazz is so amazing is because it blends with every culture so nicely.
yeah.
Of course, it has Africa's origins that's amazing, and but I was just thinking how it blends nicely with all parts of the
Mhm.
world. Like or you have stories like Um, Also, like people go into like Balkan music, and then you have that influence, or Middle East influence, or they just blend so nicely with folk and every sort of music, I think.
It
Um,
yeah. It's like a wine that goes with every meal.
exactly.
It just works. So this debut album, what are you hoping the listener gets from this? This is obviously your initial shout out into the jazz world, but what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this experience?
Ha ha ha. Good question. You're catching me unprepared in many of these
Oh,
questions.
that this is jazz though. This is improv.
It's improv, exactly. What do I get? I mean, um, I'm gonna try to transfer this feeling that I get when music gets me. It's like, um, you know, it's like so hard to explain, man. But what this feeling you get when you hear for the first time an amazing album
Yeah.
or an amazing artist. Like
Yeah.
it can be from Calexico to Mingus. Like I just still remember those moments that I heard some specific things and I was blown away, and it was like my whole mind and day and world changed. I was like, oh wow, is that possible? Is
Yeah.
that and I'm not saying no, I'm not actually, I'm too humble to say I want people to feel this way with my
Right.
album. I'm just saying that's why I write music.
Yeah.
That's why that's what I experience when I listen some of these tracks back.
Yeah.
I I feel nostalgic in some cases. I feel inspired in some other cases. I feel excited in some other cases. I just feel a lot.
Yeah.
I think I think ultimately I just want, people to get the vibe and enjoy and feel
Yeah.
whatever they want to feel, because every piece of music kind of awakens like different things to different people, different feelings. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a person. I'm a woman as well. So I don't know if that's a woman thing.
No,
but
I'm thinking about the first time I listened to Kinda Blue. I was on a flight to Seattle and I had my little portable CD player and I heard it and it was just this thing that I never heard before. It was like it's a warm serum. It's the
you
first
know the
shot of
feeling.
whiskey. It just
Yeah.
warms you up. There's a level of it that's what it is. And you can't necessarily explain it because it's very visceral.
Yes, and it's one of those things that you can't explain with words. Music
Right.
so much. It's like that's why it's music. Do,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It's Yeah. But I do hope um I do hope anyone like that will listen will experience like positive or whatever feelings they want, and because sometimes they might, I don't know, bad feelings can also be good,
Right.
just feel it out, and I think this album kind of makes you, I think anyone that listens it kind of speaks to the heart. It's not super technical, or it's not super traditional, or super. It's nothing super. I think it's very very honest. The
Yeah.
the main thing of the album is that it's quite honest and exposing.
Eh,
Now that we're talking about it, I
Yeah.
think, I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. No, I
You
agree. I agree. I think when you were talking about how it kind of wrapped up all of the timeline of you getting into this music and the movement that you've made from one country to another and all of these things, it's a personal testament. It shows that's what jazz is. That's why people love it. There's a raw, there's a truth, there's a rhythm to it. And of course, it always comes down to what Randy Weston said is it swings. That's why we did it. That's why in the beginning when it became a big thing in America, people were dancing to it. They don't as
yeah,
much now, but that's where it started. It was this thing that moved you, you know?
yeah, yeah. Which I wish I was living in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It would be cool. Yeah, definitely. So let's get to the good business here. If anyone wants to pick up the debut album, anything about live shows, anything about your world, where can they go?
I just put it last night on Bandcamp,
Okay.
so anyone can pre-order it, and it's out on the 3rd of November.
Okay.
And anyone that orders it, I will ship it around the world.
Okay.
And there are some live shows coming up in England at the moment.
Okay.
With one is on the 17th of November at Pizza Express in Soho,
Okay.
London Soho.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a few other things that haven't been confirmed yet. But I mean, I would love to go around Europe and across the Atlantic at some point, but nothing is confirmed yet.
You never know what will happen. Yeah.
Working our way around.
Excellent. Hey, Maria, thank you so much for your story. Thank you for reaching out to me on Jazz. It's so good to connect. Best of luck, and I can't wait to put it on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.